Hey, how's everybody doing? It's Baby Yaga. Or should I say, Baby Blue Bookworm? So, welcome back to another video on my main channel, Baby Yaga. But at the same time, this will be the first ever episode of Baby Reviews Books. Yay! And this is in relation to my book blog on WordPress, which you can find at babybluebookworm.wordpress.com. So that's from WordPress. Link will be provided in the description down below. But for now, this is the first time I'm going to be blogging a book review. I post a lot of book reviews on my blog. I also talk about book recommendations or books I want to read, as well as comment on certain classics. But for now, since I'm working on making new content for my channel, I figured why not also include my book reviews, right? So today, for the very first episode of the book reviews, I'm going to be tackling a psychological thriller and crime fiction story called The Good Son by You-Jeong. So you may correct me if I pronounce any of the names wrong. So I'm not very good at pronouncing certain names or characters correctly. So you may correct me in the comments below, be it here or in my blog page. But before I begin, just a trigger warning. The book will contain scenes featuring gore, blood, and graphic elements that are not for the faint-hearted. So for both this blog and the vlog, reader and viewer discretion is advised. This book was recommended to me by actually my local bookstore. So I was following it on Facebook, fully booked, and I saw this reading list actually from, I think it was a reading list from a certain K-pop group. I actually can't remember the name, but basically the members of the said K-pop group were suggesting or recommending some of their favorite books, and The Good Son was actually included. And from the plot alone, I was actually interested in the story, so I wanted to give it a shot. And this entry is dedicated to my best friend Loki for the birthday gift. So if you have seen my previous vlog on my birthday party, be sure to check it out. But so the plot goes is that one morning, 25-year-old You-Jeong, hopefully I pronounced his name right, wakes up to a foul smell in his Seoul duplex. So when he discovers the corpse of his mother downstairs, he takes us readers to the depths of his mind as we look into the next 3 days of his life on how he comes to this shocking discovery. But of course, You-Jeong isn't just an ordinary young man. According to his late mother's journals, he is a danger to many. But how did this happen? Something I noticed about Jeong's novel is that there is a lack of chapters. So examples include only page breaks or paragraph breaks between parts of the story or scenes of the story. So the novel was divided into 4 parts, but each scene or merely any paragraph was only divided by, as previously mentioned, long spaces or the page breaks. Personally, I rely on the use of chapters, whether they are numbered or titled or both. And this one also includes chapter 22, A New Beginning, because this is the 22nd chapter of my life as I turned 22 just a few days ago. So if you haven't checked out my birthday vlog, be sure to check it out on my channel. So while reading and relying only on paragraph breaks for all 4 parts of Jeong's novel, I would say it makes a lot of sense on why she wrote the narrative this way. So from the reviews of the book alone, readers see You-Jeong as an unreliable narrator, as the way he describes scenes, memories, and feelings all leave an ambiguous tone, adding to his complex and enigmatic personality. Say, the way he narrates is confusing and a bit obnoxious. No, but don't let this writing style fool you. I'd say Jeong had written out her protagonist perfectly. I will admit first-person narrations feel more personal to me, as it allows me, as the reader, to explore in depth the characters' minds, their thoughts, their feelings, compared to an omnipresent or third-person narrator. So reading through first-person perspectives feels like reading through their own personal diaries. Whether it is sharing encounters with other characters, how they feel about them, or simply talking about what happened in their day-to-day lives. For me, a first-person narrative is crucial to crafting stories and building relationships between the readers, and that's how I see it. So what is it about You-Jeong that is so intriguing? According to the protagonist himself, You-Jeong was said to have suffered from a lot of seizures as a child, which had hindered him from certain activities such as swimming, which he had to give up during his teen years. However, after describing his feelings from the first part of the book, the second part introduces us to how You-Jeong further explores the death of his mother when the realization hits him that he killed her himself. So from his supposed seizures and medications alone, You-Jeong claims to not remember things very well. I would describe You-Jeong as an emotionally and mentally unstable character, which may also explain his messy narration. So he previously relied on his roommate and best friend, Kim Hae-jin. Hopefully I pronounced his name right. So as You-Jeong remembers, Hae-jin became his legally adopted brother, as Hae-jin was very young when he had lost his parents, at least on page 43 of the book, and later when his grandfather passed. So when Hae-jin became close to You-Jeong's family, with You-Jeong's mother, Ji-won, even growing fond of him, which I had noted, influenced You-Jeong's behavior towards him in later years as well as towards his mother. So You-Jeong felt that his mother loved his adopted brother more than she did with him, especially after the loss of You-Jeong's older brother, Yoo-min, whose real death is later revealed at page 249. So I'll be reading passages from the book for mentioned pages, but of course this may contain spoilers, so if you haven't read the book, you may skip ahead. So as somebody who is currently taking up a class in my sociology program called the Sociology of Deviant Behavior, Ma'am Ging, if you are watching this, subscribe. This class aims to study crimes and how they are performed, why they are performed, and how the justice system works. So in the third part of Jeong's novel, A Danger to Many, You-Jeong's past is further explored through his mother's entries and recollections. So since his mom passed, he looked into the journals, perhaps to investigate as well why he committed the crime. So as we know, You-Jeong is the protagonist of The Good Son, the primary narrator and speaker throughout the book, but based on his actions and his mother's journal entries, You-Jeong is labeled as a deviant, his own actions making him the most dangerous kind of psychopath, as stated by his mother and his aunt, Hae-won. But what led to You-Jeong committing these crimes? So since his childhood, You-Jeong displayed strange behaviors, especially in terms of his artistic style. So he was once seen walking around with a girl his age from an art studio while carrying umbrellas. So Hae-won, his auntie, kept a drawing that was originally crumpled, which contained You-Jeong's friend, the girl, whose head was pierced on the tip of an open umbrella. So I rushed inside and saw Hae-won sitting at the table by herself looking at something. The kids were in their playroom. Yoo-min diving into a pool of balls with other kids, and Eugene sitting against the wall playing with his Rubik's Cube. I sat across from Hae-won and she showed me what she'd been looking at, a piece of paper ripped out of a notebook. It was crumpled, so I smoothed that out and saw what had been drawn with the colored pencil. A girl's head, topped with a crown, was pierced on the tip of an open umbrella. She had a dark gray face, the mouth drawn with an X, 2 circles for eyes, and long black hair that trickled down onto the umbrella like strands of seaweed. Water was dripping down the handle, and above the umbrella was a storm cloud. Hae-won said Eugene had drawn it. She asked me if I've seen him drawn anything like this before. I'd never seen anything even remotely similar. In all honesty, I hadn't looked very carefully at Eugene's sketchbook or picture diary, let alone his scribbles in a notebook. I wouldn't have been able to describe my 6-year-old's artistic style. It might sound like an excuse, but I was so busy and Eugene wasn't a boy who needed a lot of attention. So after this final sentence, let's take note of his mother's personality and behavior towards him. Eugene had drawn this himself, and at this age he was only 6, so it was kind of strange, and this behavior seemed persistent according to Hae-won. And Eugene gave girls that he liked or wanted to befriend these creepy drawings, which included the umbrella girl, most of which had brought him to tears or caused trouble in his classes. It's also noted that Haiwon seemed to have shown more concern towards You-Jin rather than with Ji-won, his mother. So it seems like from the paragraph, or rather the sentence I said that, but I was so busy and You-Jin wasn't a boy who needed a lot of attention. We can tell that it seemed like Haiwon cared more about the welfare of You-Jin rather than Ji-won did. It was even Haiwon who insisted that You-Jin is to be provided with proper medical and professional help even in his childhood. But his mother appeared defensive towards Haiwon's suggestions, and it also seemed she was afraid of exposing her son to any dangerous or lethal procedures. And with Haiwon's constant eye on You-Jin, led to his mother avoiding her, if not attempting to even cut ties with her as You-Jin got older. I grabbed the boys and left the restaurant. I thought I'd get physical with her if I stayed any longer. We were never sisters so much as competitors. She was less than a year younger than me, so we always wore the same clothes and read the same books. She was always first in the class, but she couldn't stand if I won an award in a writing contest. Even though people told her all the time that she was smart, she couldn't handle it if someone occasionally complimented me on being intelligent. There was always tension between us. It wasn't that we weren't close. We were always engaged in a power struggle. That's why Min Seok sometimes complained that she looked down on him. So Min Seok is the father of You-Jin and Yoo-min, who was also killed. So in here, as we analyze, the two sisters actually have a tense relationship, and they might even be competing against who is the better parent or mother towards Yoo-Jin. I stopped speaking to her after the incident in the restaurant. I heard she left university and opened her own clinic, but I didn't get in touch. I tried my best to avoid her during holidays or at Dad's birthday. She never tried to reach out either. We met a month ago after they died. I can comment here that there's also lack of proper parenting, no? Especially when Yoo-Jin lost his father and his brother. So Haiwon is especially a family woman. So after Yoo-Jin kills his mother, he starts referring to Haiwon as his enemy. It wasn't mother this time. This time it was coming from the hallway. I turned around. Are you there? Someone was knocking on my door. The handle turned. I glanced at the clock. 1:48 p.m. The journal was open on my desk. Of course, the door wasn't locked. Why would I lock it when I was home alone? I realized I was naked when the door swung open to reveal Auntie standing there. What are you doing? She said, almost smiling. This was unexpected. I thought she would come over at some point, but I hadn't realized it would be now. I hadn't thought she'd burst into my room without being asked. Even Mother never came charging in like this. I looked down at my naked body. The skin across my stomach tightened and my thigh muscles hardened. All of my focus was on Auntie. My enemy was here. So it seemed like with the way that she also appeared overprotective towards Yoo-Jin, he grew to have a dislike towards Haiwon as well. So despite the care and the attention she had provided, noted there were times that Ji-won also seemingly did not attend to Yoo-Jin's needs. So through the sociology of deviant behavior, we would discuss consequences, rights and wrongs, as well as the origins of these actions, which I think is a perfect analogy to the final part of Jeong's novel, Origin of the Species. So deviance can stem from a variety of factors such as personality traits, biological context, environment, or even power within certain groups, at least according to, I also hope I pronounced this author's name correctly, or group of authors, Mationis. I am so sorry for butchering your names. I asked Coach what they were, and he said they were traps to stop rabbits from eating the crops. He told me not to go near them, which was the easiest way to send a 9-year-old boy straight to them. At night, when everyone else was asleep, I left the camp with a flashlight. I was curious, could you really catch a rabbit with these traps? I crouched under an acacia tree where I could see the traps and turned off my flashlight and waited for the rabbits to appear. I wasn't scared. It wasn't dark at all. With the full moon in the sky, the forest glittered and gold stars hung low above my head. I don't remember how long I waited. I started drifting off at some point, listening to the sounds of the night as I rested my head. An owl hooting, a frog croaking, a cricket chirping, water trickling. Suddenly, a strange sound. Under the bright moon, I saw a dark leaping shadow. I stood up, a rabbit. An ash-colored rabbit. Wild rabbit was leaping up and down, its hind leg caught in the trap. I stepped closer, and a sweet smell washed over me. Its back leg with a tight loop digging into it, was drenched in blood. Its frightened eyes glistened, wet and black in the moonlight. My heart thumped. "Hold on," I said. "I'll untangle you." I began to unwind the wire from the stake. It was wrapped around it several times, but it wasn't hard to undo it. It just took some time. The rabbit writhed and bucked, and as soon as the wire loosened, it bolted away. I followed it. I wasn't trying to catch it to do anything to it. I was just curious about what was going to happen, where it was going, how far it could go with that long wire still on its leg, whether it could survive the blood loss. It darted through a bush, across a creek, up a hill, and under a tree. I didn't use my eyes. I followed the scent of blood. It smelled as strong as meat being cooked. I could see it as clearly as a flame. The rabbit slowed. At first, I had to run to keep up, but soon I was just walking. Then it stopped completely. It was hiding under a thorny bush. It didn't run away when I approached. I stuck my hand in and grabbed it, but it didn't move. I picked it up by its ears. It was slim. It was dead. I lost interest and threw it into the bushes. I don't remember much after that. It wasn't important. A question occurred to me now. Had that been a coincidence or inevitable? So from here, You-Jeong seems to be aware that his fascination in accidentally killing a wild rabbit may have led to his behavior in the coming years. So he knew the trap was a success when the rabbit was weakened, and he even attempted to comfort it when he supposedly rescued it, but then he chased after it when he noticed it was weakened. I was so offended by this scene. Like, he just picked up the dead rabbit and threw it into a bush. Like, come on. I understand that rabbits are supposed to be avoid eating the crops, and the camp mentioned is supposedly the swim camp that You-Jeong attended when he was younger. But still, you could just build a fence, a really high fence. I'm not saying I blame his coach either, but those things are going to kill the rabbits. And I like rabbits personally. So from his fascination alone with capturing animals, even if it's for unethical means, and then his drawings of people and the gruesome situations, this shaped his personality to be like that of a potential killer. But does this label You-Jeong as a deviant? Well, the answer is yes. So, deviance, according to Mazzionis, once again, sorry for butchering your name, is a recognized violation of cultural norms performed by crimes and or nonconformity. So, by killing his mother and a young You-Jeong having killed his father and his brother Yumin, as told in the journal entry, this is considered as a crime regardless of the means he had. The forest, thick with pine trees, felt long and endless, and it seemed I would never reach the tower. When I finally got there, You-Jeong was the only one I could see. He was leaning against the railing and looking down at the ocean without moving. I stopped running. Where was Min-seok? Why was it so quiet? What had happened? My body was shaking, and I said weepily, "You-Jeong." He looked down at me. His face was covered in blood. His pupils were big and black. I thought I saw flames in them. I ran to the edge of the cliff, hoping against hope. The water had come up higher. Yumin was nowhere to be seen. Min-seok was thrashing in the waves alone, pulled under, then thrust above the surface. My ears buzzed. The moment when You-Jeong had thrown his first punch at his older brother, when he'd kicked him into the ocean, the scenes flashed past my eyes. I needed to call for help, but I couldn't open my mouth. My vocal cords strained, but nothing came out. I watched stiffly as the waves pulled Min-seok up to the crest and threw him several hundred yards further out. I watched the ocean as it held him in its mouth and took him away. So, Min-seok was the father of both You-Jeong and Yumin, and the husband of Ji-won. So, the ending of the book is said to be a bit more ambiguous once again, and it was personally hard to analyze myself, as it was implied that after You-Jeong turns himself in to Hae-jin by confessing his crime, he later attempts to attack him with I think was his dad's or grandfather's razor, and this led to a brutal fight between the two boys, but in the epilogue, of course, You-Jeong won, and Hae-jin was nowhere to be found after the two boys steered their car in the middle of a road. While I'd been roaming the seas, the shock had worn off, and by now everyone had forgotten about the missing brother. I was about to turn off the computer when I decided to log into Hae-jin's email. It wasn't hard to remember his password. There were hundreds of unread messages, most of them promotional offers. I flicked back 20 pages or so before I found the email that had been sent around this time last year, confirming the purchase of an e-ticket to Rio. So I'll assume that this epilogue happens about a year, if not a few months after Hae-jin's disappearance. And it just says here, passenger name Kim Hae-jin. He had never opened the email. He wouldn't have had the time before he left the apartment, and he wasn't able to open it afterward. If I could have said my goodbyes the way I had planned, I wouldn't be opening it now either. The Christmas present he never received had been embedded deep in my consciousness over the last year. Many nights as I floated out in the ocean, I thought of our final wishes. If he'd let me go that day, what would have happened? Would he have been in Rio for Christmas? But he hadn't let me go, and because of that, only my wish came true. Granted, it was a shrimp boat, not a yacht. I'd still work myself nearly to death every day. Still, I had found peace. For the past year, I'd lived like an animal, without a thought. Now I'd return to the world, but I wasn't so sure I could live as a human, among other people. Let's read the final paragraph together, guys. Closed the browser and left the cafe. I walked around, looking for somewhere to sleep. The streets were deserted. The night was still and the sea air was wet with fog. Up ahead in the mist, someone was walking. I heard her footsteps. The smell of blood wafted toward me with the salty wind. Ending was really something. Even personally, I got goosebumps. Of course, Jeong's novel painted the haunting portrait of a family shattered by mentality and guilt, as well as remorse in the end. From vivid hallucinations and dreams, You-Jeong eventually meets his late parents and his brothers in his dreams. So no family is perfect, but when it comes to mental health, family members should all the more stay together and guide one another in this journey, which You-Jeong had lacked. Despite his actions, readers such as myself would still sympathize with You-Jeong due to his awareness and eventual guilt for what he's done. He claims that his mother was hard on him, which led to him killing her, and he claims that he was afraid of telling the truth to Hae-jin, which was why he lied about Ji-won being at religious retreats, at work, etc. And in Ji-won's journal, it seemed that Yoo-min and You-Jeong were just as playing a fight at the bell tower, but You-jeong pushed him and Min-sok to sacrifice his life and save his oldest son, as seen in the article on page 264. It is revealed to them in other entries that from Ji-won, You-jeong frequently visited this bell tower at midnight when he was off his medications as if showing remorse for the loss of not one but two of his family members. The family issues portrayed in this story remind me of a television show of a similar name, also called The Good Son, which aired on the ABS-CBN network in 2017 up until 2018. And similarly, the plot revolved around three brothers, each with a different parent, as they investigate the death and mystery surrounding their late shared father. And one of the brothers has the father as his stepfather. I actually love this show a lot, and finding out about the book reminded me of the show, even with its similar elements such as brotherhood, mental issues, although the Good Son TV show focused on schizophrenia, and then the ties that bond between a mother and her son. So You-Jeong's book was the first novel I got to read this year. Since last January, I was just reading a textbook on sociology stuff, and I'm actually so happy that I get to explore another genre this time, which is crime fiction, especially with my Sociology of Deviance classes. I believe reading more books under this genre will guide me through my understanding of the class. And Sociology of Deviant Behavior also happens to be one of my fields of interest under the Sociology degree program as well. So, what do you guys think? I plan to read more of the genre. Of course, there are more books to follow. Overall, I think The Good Son was a good book. It's definitely haunting. It's nighttime right now. It's 11 p.m. as I film this, and I felt, it would be nice to talk about books or stories like this at night. I don't know, it just hits different compared to filming this in the morning. And as you can tell, I'm kind of tired. Like, I look like a mess right now. I literally just threw on a dress just to look nice for this first book blog episode. But yes, um, the official transcript or book post itself will be made available. The link will be in the description below. So if you want to check out the post and follow along with me as I read the book and read my thoughts and explain the book to you, you can check it out, and as well as follow my blog for more updates. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'll be posting a lot of new content this year, not just travel blogs, but mini adventures with friends, parties I'll attend, maybe even food reviews, whatever it is, and of course book blogs. So thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to check out my blog. If you're interested in reading books as well, I also recommend stories. So see you guys in the next episode of this blog channel, as well as for baby reviews books. Bye! But I'm kind of like looking back at this and like, I can't believe that I wrote all these paragraphs. No, but seriously, like, this is pretty long, and it's not just because the text is big. Normally I would write in a smaller text or smaller font size, but like, I'm surprised I wrote a lot of these paragraphs. Like, this is something else.